Hello everyone, Radio Mike here, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for being here, nearly at 800 subscribers, so if you haven't subscribed, chuck a little click on that subscribe button below and help me get to the 1,000 to monetize the channel. I hope you're well, and I hope you have all been watching WandaVision, which is my current favorite show that I am watching week to week on Disney+. I assume you are as well, because you're watching this video, and I think this week's episode was absolutely my favorite so far for a number of reasons, but the main one being the show's blatant referencing of one of my favorite sitcoms, Malcolm in the Middle. So obviously so far with WandaVision, we are journeying through the history of television sitcoms starting in the 50s and the 60s and 70s. And finally now we are, I guess, in like the 90s phase of American television sitcoms. And a lot of the sitcoms that WandaVision has been stylistically trying to emulate are family-based sitcoms. So shows like Family Ties, All in the Family, and different things like that that are really heavily grounded in this family kind of thing. And the show really emulates pretty much every part of them, from like camera setup to dialogue to costuming, color, and of course the opening titles of those shows as well. So I was actually really excited to get into the 90s and 2000s kind of era, because I was wondering what kind of shows they might model the episode around. For whatever reason, I guess at first I was thinking it would definitely be like a Seinfeld or a Friends kind of spoof, because those shows were probably the two biggest sitcoms of the 90s.
Yeah, but nothing happens on the show. It's just like life.
I think you would struggle to find someone who has not watched Seinfeld or Friends in their entirety. I think those shows are like synonymous with the 90s.
We were on a break!
Neither of those shows particularly lend themselves to the family-based themes of WandaVision, and I was trying to think of what show would fit that, and I was really, really pleasantly surprised when almost from the word go, it is incredibly clear that we are working with Malcolm in the Middle here.
You boys heard your mother. We have always said you have to concentrate on your schoolwork before wasting your time on dead-end jobs. You have got your whole life to work and only one chance to learn.
I told them to get jobs, Hal.
The value of hard work. Money doesn't grow on trees. The sooner you two kids have jobs, the better.
Even though Malcolm in the Middle is not really a 90s sitcom, I think it started in the year 2000, or maybe even a little bit later than that. It definitely is a show that screams 90s, and this is a 90s family, and Frankie Muniz as Malcolm in that show was always just so great, but the entire cast, obviously Bryan Cranston was in it, all of the brothers, Francis, Reese, Dewey, and of course Lois, the family mother, and the supporting characters. This show was just such an absolute gem, and I feel like it is really underrated because it centers a lot on the kids in the family. I feel like it was often not necessarily seen as a sitcom. It was almost seen more as like a kids sitcom. But Malcolm in the Middle is seriously one of the funniest sitcoms ever made, full stop. It is just incredible. Everyone plays their roles so well. The brothers and the parents and just everything about this show is amazing and wholesome, and you should go watch it. This whole dysfunctional family idea, it doesn't have a laugh track like a lot of traditional sitcoms did, which was actually inspired by cartoon sitcoms like The Simpsons, which were a bit of a departure from that old style of sitcom where there was a laugh track and everything like that. Malcolm in the Middle, there is no laugh track, and it is very unique in the way it is set up, especially with the fact that Malcolm at the start of every episode and throughout episodes will generally look at the camera and address the audience, like directly breaking the fourth wall.
When was the last Christmas we had eggnog? It's all you, man. This is a game that has no winners.
Interestingly, he does this in front of other characters. I guess it's never really explained, but he just is talking to the audience, and none of the other characters in the scene seem to notice this. They just go along with whatever they're doing. That part is kind of interesting to the lore of WandaVision, though. Malcolm in the Middle is such an iconic and fun show, and instantly you see from the title credits of WandaVision that they are definitely emulating that style. I'll put a little comparison in of the WandaVision and Malcolm in the Middle intros so you can see it for yourself. Everything about that essentially, including like the way that theme song in WandaVision is produced and sung, and the font in the actual intro credits with the cast names is almost identical, and the use of effects and things like that, and the characters' faces, and yeah. As soon as I saw that, my eyes just like lit up, and I was like, oh my god, it's Malcolm in the Middle. And then of course, as soon as we start the episode after those credits, we get one of Wanda and Vision's children doing exactly what Malcolm does in Malcolm in the Middle, which is address the audience directly. Well, they actually both do, which doesn't happen in Malcolm in the Middle, but it was almost instantly this exact nod to Malcolm in the Middle, and I loved it so, so much.
Halloween's a magical holiday, all about family, friends, and the thrill of getting to be someone else for a day.
And it felt so authentic to the source material. Like, that's what I love most about this show, is these shows that they're trying to, I guess, reference or make tribute to. They're so spot on and authentic that, like, and yeah, like, I guess this is the one I was most familiar with to all of the shows they've done, and literally instantly I knew what it was, just because of how stylistically similar and how well they had emulated the style of Malcolm in the Middle. Even a few other things like Wanda and Vision having these like little sexual innuendo conversations like next to the kids, which happens a lot between Hal and Lois in Malcolm in the Middle, really felt like they were trying to replicate that style a lot. The way the kids were playing video games on the couch with Quicksilver, who kind of felt a lot like the Francis character from Malcolm in the Middle, who's the older brother that doesn't live with them. He goes to boarding school and sometimes comes back to the family home and hangs out with them and is kind of like the ringleader.
Dad, I know what you're gonna say, and believe me, I totally agree with you. There is no excuse for what I did. It was idiotic, immature, totally reckless, and I'm really sorry. I'm hoping against hope that you will give me another chance, which I admit I don't deserve. If you could just find it in your heart to forgive me, I know I could earn your trust back.
Like, I loved that about Malcolm in the Middle when Francis comes into the mix with the other boys. You can see where they all get their naughty kind of traits from. It's clear he's the ringleader and he's passed down all these like really bad habits onto them that make them these like really bad kids that are always scheming and trying to like get into trouble.
Where to keep your water balloons?
What? We don't have water balloons.
Where are we gonna put all the shaving cream? Oh. It was Billy's idea.
I'm Tom.
Quicksilver really felt like Francis in this, and just a lot of the fast-pacedness of it that was obviously amplified by Quicksilver actually having super speed really felt like the way the pacing of Malcolm in the Middle, which often had these really abrupt cuts at the end of scenes into commercial breaks, and I think that was a really big trait of that show. It would just abruptly fade to black at the end of a scene and go to a break. Even things like the incidental music, like the score music in the scenes really reflected that kind of pop-punky vibe that Malcolm in the Middle had. It was always like, yeah, it was a kids kind of family show, but it was also a bit of a mature sitcoms, especially when the characters started aging and growing up, because you kind of watched all of these boys grow up on screen, and I think the show finished when Malcolm, or Frankie Muniz, was like in his 20s, so I think these characters developed and grew on screen with you, and the show matured with them. Finally, and I guess this is the part that leans into the lore of WandaVision a fair bit, and I'm not sure if I'm making too much of this, but as I mentioned before, when Malcolm in the show does his piece-to-camera bits where he's literally addressing the audience, none of the characters ever seem to notice that. For example, I can show you in this scene here, Malcolm is talking to the audience just after talking to his brother Reese, and Reese does not acknowledge the fact that Malcolm is talking directly to the camera in this scene.
You looked. Ow! We're doing this new thing called the circle game. Basically, if you can make the other guy look at your hand when you're doing this, below your waist, you get to hit them in the arm. It's stupid, but hey, you get to hit people. Barn door's open. Huh? Ah!
Boys.
However, in WandaVision, in one point when one of the twins is looking at the camera and addressing it, only one character is looking at him while doing it, which does not happen in Malcolm in the Middle, as I've said, and that is Quicksilver. Which does make me think that Quicksilver kind of is this intrusion into Wanda's world, and he's not supposed to be there, and he probably isn't who he thinks he is. That's what that kind of says to me, because based on the authenticity of how they have adapted everything else about this show, it seems highly unlikely to me that they would deliberately miss that detail and not direct Quicksilver to not notice. Like, it seems like that is an intentional decision they have made there to kind of show that something is up with this dude, but I'm not 100% sure. Overall, I loved this. I thought it was awesome. I'm really keen to see what they do for the next decade. I have heard or read somewhere that it is going to be a Modern Family kind of spoof, and I think that would fit really well. Would love to see them do the mockumentary format, and I loved the first few seasons of Modern Family. I think those were some of the greatest sitcom episodes ever produced, and it really showed how the sitcom evolved in the 2000s. But this episode definitely had a place in my heart because I literally love Malcolm in the Middle so much. It is one of my favorite shows, and seeing it so authentically reproduced in this way was just honestly amazing for a fan of that show. Those are my thoughts. What did you think? What are your thoughts? What other show styles would you like to see WandaVision try and tackle? Let me know in the comments below. Give the vid a thumbs up, subscribe, check out some of my other videos. My channel is all pop culture, so I'd love for you to subscribe and check out some of my other vids and podcasts that I put up in full here. But until next time, my name has been Radio Mike, and this has been The Inside of My Mind. Catch you later.
But I went to run my hand through your hair and I noticed you were attached to string. You were a puppet this whole time, you were attached to string.